Welcome to our webinar, Eureka, where workforce and business initiatives connect with lifelong learning. I'm Susan Hope Bard, and I'll be your host today. I'm here with TechSoup, and today we've got a spectacular presentation brought to you by the folks at the City of Scottsdale Public Library. Before we get started with their presentation, I am going to talk to you a little bit about our platform to deliver our webinars, ReadyTalk. So what you see on the left side of your screen should be a bar. It's a chat bar. That bar is there for you to chat questions to us. If you have technical difficulties, we have folks on the back end that can help you. If you have questions at any time during the presentation, do not hesitate to chat them in. We may not answer them immediately, but I will be queuing them up for Nife and Allan, our presenters, to answer periodically or at the end of the presentation. So you don't need to raise your hand. You can simply chat the questions in as they come to your head. If you lose your internet connection, you can reconnect using the link that was sent to you in your confirmation or reminder email. So you know all of the lines are muted. The reason we do this is to get a good clear connection and we can record without any background sounds. We do post all of our recorded webinars on our website at www.techsoup.org/community/events-webinars. So you can find all of our archives there or on our YouTube channel. You will receive an email with this presentation, a link to the recording, and any resources that Nife and Allan mentioned during the presentation shortly after the event. We will process the recording and then we'll send out that email to you pretty shortly, usually by the end of the day. You can also tweet us at TechSoup or use hashtag #TSWebinars. So our presenters today, as I mentioned, Nife Adeyemi and Allan McWilliams are both from the city of Scottsdale in Arizona with the public library there. And Nife has presented with us a few times before. She is a digital media specialist and she works in the Eureka Loft, so she'll be able to share with you some of her experiences, and Allan helps administer that program, and he's going to give you some background information as well. As I mentioned, I'm Susan Hope Bard, and I am the Training and Education Manager here at TechSoup, and we have two folks on the back end assisting with chat. We've got Becky Wiegand. She is our webinar manager. She'll be helping you with any tech challenges you have. And also Alicia Kidd. She is our online learning specialist, and this is her first webinar with us, so she's going to be learning how to chat and use the chat box, just like some of you. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about TechSoup. We are headquartered here in San Francisco, California. I'd love to know where you're joining us from. So take a moment in the chat box and tell me what city and state you're joining us from. I see a couple of people chatting in. Great. Texas, Maine, Georgia, North Carolina. Yay. From all over the country. Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Buffalo. Thank you so much for joining us today. Great. And LA as well, a few from California. I was wondering if there is someone from Arizona. Great. Thanks, Lori. Before I turn it over to Allan and Nife, I did want to conduct a poll question. And this is our first poll question before we actually start with the presentation. So what we'd like to know, Nife and Allan would like to know if your library currently offers services for small business owners and entrepreneurs. And it's a yes or no question. So what I'll do is I'll give you about 5 seconds to answer, and then I will give you a countdown of 5 seconds, and we'll take a look at how many of the libraries that are joining us today do provide these services. So I'll give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so it looks like a little bit more than half of you already do this. Great. Great. So hopefully Nife and Allan will be able to tell you some of their best practices and some of their lessons learned as well. And I'm thrilled to be able to have them present to you today. I'm going to turn it over first to Allan McWilliams. Allan, take it away.
Hello, everybody. I'm here giving sort of highlights of the Eureka Loft and what that experience has been like for the Scottsdale Public Library over the past roughly 4 years since the Eureka Loft was created. Just a little bit of a background to get a sense of how it developed out of traditional sort of library activities. The space was actually used as a local history, sort of a Scottsdale and Southwest collection of book, mainly print materials. And so that was housed on a sort of mezzanine level in the large main library in downtown Scottsdale. And that collection was relatively underused, and certainly the space was generous for a collection that received sort of sporadic attention. So it was decided when the library was approached by Arizona State University representatives, a new sort of entrepreneurial incubator that ASU had started called SkySong. They approached the library administrators and proposed setting up a sort of a space in the library to promote the type of entrepreneurship and business startup that they were interested in. And so it was decided over the course of some months that that space, that mezzanine level in the main library would be an ideal spot for what came to be the Eureka Loft. That, again, was in about 2003. The SkySong partnership was mainly in material terms or in actual sort of product that was developed out of that was a series of programs called the Startup School. And that was a several weeks long course that was offered to the public, to entrepreneurs and business people, for the sort of business 101 sort of approach. So that was done with presenters, people who had been sort of through a program with ASU and had learned about the material and had a prospectus or an outline for what was presented and some materials that they were able to provide to the students or the participants, attendees in the sessions. That also led to some other programs which the library itself was involved in creating, things like marketing and just general business topics of interest to the business community, to startups and existing business people. And those were successful enough that we're still continuing with those programs. They tend to take place on either a monthly or a bi-weekly basis, and we have presenters who actually went through the startup school and then went on to become presenters themselves. The other aspect of the Eureka Loft is that job help. It exists as part of the mission for Eureka Loft to promote job searching. We have equipment, a series of computers that have special software loaded and things and links and so on that are made available for extended sessions for people who are searching for jobs. We also have weekly job help drop-in sessions, which are provided by library staff and as well as volunteers. Those are things like resume help or mock interviews. So again, that's part of the same mission that the library has established for Eureka, is to promote business and employment. As far as the space goes, again, it was sort of serendipitous that the library had a large open mezzanine level, and so it works out pretty well as it turns out, for programming purposes and also for collaborative or interactive space for the public. There's sort of a dogleg shape, and the one section of it has been set up as a sort of a mini auditorium. We've got a screen, projector screen on one side, and then a series of rows of tables and chairs that people are able to set up and get the information from our presenters. That has worked pretty well for us. It's easily configured. We have the tables sort of daisy chained so that they have electrical power, so people are able to use their laptops there. When we're not doing programs, that same space is able to be used by people for whatever sort of business activities that they're doing. We try to encourage the use of the space apart from the programming that goes on as just a working space or a collaborative space. We had at one point what we called the collaboration station, which was a large screen monitor. This was sort of a piece of equipment that was inherited at the beginning from the main floor of the library, and that never really lived up to its promise. I will say that's one of the lessons learned, is that technology will easily outstrip any sort of vision that you've got for doing things. I think that we've come into an age with wireless connections, and it's not so much a matter of plugging in physically to a unit of some sort. It's kind of gone into the ether, you might say. So we're looking at other ways to encourage that sort of collaboration that doesn't necessarily involve a giant television set. So that's our space and equipment. We have managed to staff the Eureka Loft as part of the regular library hours. The Adult Services Department does a regular shift at the desk there, the physical desk there in the Eureka space. So there's always somebody on hand, either to help the computer users or to answer questions or explain a little bit about the space and refer people to appropriate resources, whether they're library or other resources. As it turned out, within about the past year, the City of Scottsdale's Economic Development Department was granted a room, some office space, which extends off of the Eureka Loft. So that has put them right in next to us, which is very convenient. So our economic development people are sort of considered as stakeholders in what we do in Eureka, because there are obviously some common interests in promoting small businesses and entrepreneurship. That has led to some, again, good mutually useful developments, such as a sound baffling system and a large projector, which we used for promotional and marketing purposes. The promotion of library programs or Eureka programs is also enhanced by the resources that the Department of Economic Development has at their disposal. The partnership that began with ASU has not really continued in its original form. It was instrumental really in getting Eureka Loft set up, but we've gone from a more direct partnership to using still the ASU Startup School, the program, on a several times a year basis. We have that, make that available, and still using the ASU provided instructors. But it's really more strictly a library project now, and the other programming that's done is done by library staff, is organized and presented by library staff. and I'm making Nife jump around on the slides here, so I'm sorry about that. But we do have some partnerships with small business entrepreneurs, and we have presenters who we contract with, either on a volunteer sort of basis. So we have a lot of presenters who do their programming free of charge. We have also a number of programs, especially at the present time, we've been doing programs with the IMLS and LSTA grant monies that have allowed us to do some maker-related technology programs. Those involve paid presenters. And we have an additional grant, which is currently, in fact, just today we'll be starting up a program that is for minority and women business people. That's, again, a grant that was funds that were provided through ASU. And we're working on setting or scheduling programs for the fall. And there are things like the marketing and general business interest questions that we've got, and we've also got some personal finance programs which are provided by local experts, and whatever is really of interest to the public. We try to use feedback that we get from programs. I'm trying to think of any questions that I might have as a librarian, so maybe if we had some questions, now would be a chance for you to send those out, and I'll see if there's anything I've missed or confused you about.
Thanks, Allan. Actually, there were a couple questions. You mentioned that the Eureka Loft is completely funded now by the library program, but how does that work? How is it scheduled and staffed? How do you work that with your, I know you also work the desk, so I know that there's a lot of hats everyone has to wear. How do you work that with scheduling, staffing, and training?
Well, again, it falls to the adult services people in the Civic Center Library, which is where Eureka Loft is housed. The desk in the Eureka Loft is just taken as another service point. So it happens that I do the scheduling for the department, and so when I'm plugging in people for desk shifts each week, the Eureka Loft is just another one of those service points. So of course that means that it's funded through just the library as operating budget as far as staff is concerned. We do also have volunteers. We have a fairly good cohort of people who come in and provide us a couple hours of coverage for the Eureka Loft each week. Just about each day of the week we'll have somebody coming in, and we've had some of those volunteers for almost as long as the Eureka Loft has been around. That's a very good, reliable source of help. And of course, we keep those people in the loop as far as what's going on with programming and any changes that maybe the library system has changes that might affect the use of the Eureka Loft or the services that are provided. Did I answer that whole question? I think so.
Yeah, we actually have quite a few questions, and I think some of these are relevant to your portion of the presentation. In terms of, you said you solicit feedback from the folks that come in. How do you first promote the service, and then how do you determine, or what are the most popular programs?
To promote the service, we've gotten a little bit more into social media. We're trying to make use of Facebook and Twitter, and I maintain a calendar on meetup.com, which has a Eureka Loft specific page. So that shows all of the weekly and monthly programs that are upcoming and allows people to sign up for sessions, to attend programs. The library system has an online calendar of events as well as a print calendar of events, and we try to keep those up to date with the Eureka programming. There's actually designated page in the printed calendar of events that kind of showcases the Eureka Loft programs. That tends to be a pretty good source for us because the print calendar is still where a lot of library customers expect to find what's going on in the library. So we do our best to keep that current and get the programming listed in there. I have been doing the programming coordinating in Eureka for a little over a year now, and I tend to get either presenters that have used or presented in Eureka Loft before, where we know the content and the people who are presenting. We also have a suggest a program sort of a tool that goes to the library's website. Those recommendations, that gives the potential presenters a chance to describe what their presentation will be, and as far as length and the time frame and so on for what they want to present. Those go through the adult services coordinator for the system, and anything that specifically matches or might match the Eureka goals is forwarded to me, and then I make contact with the presenters if it's something that we didn't like to pursue. As far as what's most popular, I think it's safe to say that the ASU Startup School is a pretty good draw because it has sort of that pedigree, I think, and that appeals to a lot of potential business people. And you will be getting to Nife's presentation here in a minute, and we've definitely had raging success with her social media and marketing and business-related programs. So I know you're looking forward to hearing about those.
Yes, thank you. And we do have, before I turn it over to Nife, we have a couple other questions, and there's kind of two that are kind of hand in hand, so I want to put these two together if that's okay. The first is, what are the prices to rent the meeting space, and is there a special discount for nonprofits in the area?
Well, the Eureka Loft is used exclusively for library-produced programs or partnered programs. At this point, we don't rent that space out, unlike a lot of other spaces that we have in the library, including the Civic Center Library. There is a rental, sort of a scaled rental for different types of groups that want to use, say, the auditorium or some of our meeting rooms. That depends on the type of organization that is making use of the space. There are different pay scales for people, say, for-profit groups versus nonprofits. Obviously, city or library use of the rooms, of those rooms, is free. We don't charge ourselves to use the rooms. I can't tell you what the pricing scale is. They keep it a secret, but they don't keep it a secret, but it's something that's handled centrally for the library system. So we have an office staff that strictly does room bookings, and they are able to provide all the details, including pricing, for people who are interested in using those spaces. But again, Eureka is used at this point exclusively for library programs and business-related topics.
Thank you. There are a few more questions that I want to let everyone know that we're going to hold off on. We're going to let Nife present her portion, and then we will collect those other questions, so don't drop off. We'll get those answered. And I think, did we have a poll?
Susan, though? Allan wants to mention one more thing about our metrics and performance, then I'll go right in.
Got it. Thank you.
I know it's of interest because this is something that all libraries are trying to keep up with, is sort of measuring our success. We haven't found a really great way of getting sort of how much of an impact are we having, how specifically successful are small business people who make use of the Eureka Loft resources. Because, again, they're just members of the public who we don't have any real control over following up with if they are interested in sharing some of their successes with us, then we have that anecdotal evidence. So what we do is pretty much what we do with our other programming for Eureka Loft, which is to do surveys, and that has pretty consistently given us high ratings for the quality and the content of the programs, and it of course gives us the just raw numbers as far as attendance. Just for example, we had something in the neighborhood of 163 programs over the past year with about 1,400 people attending in the past 12 months. Those seem to be indicating that we're doing something right. I guess there's not any basis to compare those against, but if we're doing as well as we've done in past years and we're continuing to draw people to the programs, then we consider that a success.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I think I'll just go right in then, Susan, if since we are just jumping right ahead. So thank you, Susan, again, and thank you, TechSoup, for this opportunity to speak with everyone. So as Susan mentioned, I'm Nife Adeyemi, Digital Media Specialist here at Civic Center Library. And just to give you a little bit of background before we get started at what I do here, prior to working here, I was working at a local university in their communication arts department. So I just happened to see the position online that was available for a digital media specialist, and it said you're going to teach digital media classes to the patrons, mainly aimed at small business owners, entrepreneurs, and those who are thinking about starting a business, and also manage a digital media lab, which would be like a production studio. And so I was like, yeah, that's me. I can do that. Sign me up. So this would be, it is also a grant-funded position. So each year, this is going on my third year that I've been here. And so each year we have to get the grant approved again and funded. And so usually, around maybe November, I find out, that, oh yeah, the grant's back. But myself as a small business owner, I thought it was perfect because it's grant funded. I work 25 hours at the library, so I still have time, to do my business. And as I'm meeting other business owners, I'm teaching them and learning from them, and I just absolutely love to help them. So I'm not a librarian. I'm a digital media specialist, but I think it's a perfect atmosphere to meet people that are thinking about starting a business or already on there. And we come across every type of individual in the business, whether they're just starting, they're already well into their business and they just need some help marketing and so forth. And so to the right of the slide that you see up, this is actually a digital form of the banner that we have in digital media at the Eureka Loft that we worked with economic development to create. So we thought of a tagline, we called it Where Startups Connect, took a picture and just posted it up there so people can kind of know as they walk up what they can expect, because as Allan mentioned, the space, we really want people to be able to come, as a co-working space where they can come, collaborate, network, learn, and then obviously use the digital media space as well. So I'll give you a few pictures of behind the scenes what we do in our digital media lab so you can see what that looks like. We do have a dedicated volunteer. Her name is Crystal, and she comes in to take photographs of the patrons. She normally comes on Mondays, sometimes on Thursdays, and she's amazing. I mean, she's just, by the time, she has access to the digital media lab, so sometimes before I even get there, she's set up everything, she's ready to go, she helps me with the videos. So we've kind of planned it out, and it's been working pretty well. And it took some time to actually get the schedule right to see, okay, when are we actually going to shoot videos, when we're going to offer it and open it. So what we've determined is patrons can come once per month, and they can use the digital media lab and set it up through me. They can either email me, and we also have a general email address for the digital media lab, which is digitalmedialab@scottsdaleaz.gov. Here, and so what you're seeing here is actually half of the poster that's on the door. So a lot of people look in and say, oh, what's that? And I had heard a question about pricing too. I get that. It's probably one of the number one questions. How much does it cost to rent? And it's absolutely free. So we're one of the few libraries here that have, a digital media space. I think one is starting one, and that someone had left our library and was working another one, so they were able to get encouraged and actually start something at their own library. So people are really impressed that we can actually offer this, and we enjoy doing that. But the once per month thing really does work, and it actually goes by really fast for patrons because either they're going to come in and do a video or do a one-on-one with me, which would include doing like a brainstorming for branding, marketing their business, creating marketing materials, web design, so we help them with that, social media marketing, and video production, as I said, and either taking photos of themselves, like a headshot for their website, or their products. We've taken quite a bit of product photos as well. So I wanted to show you what we have in a digital media lab that we offer to our patrons. So we do have an Apple iMac that has Adobe Creative Cloud in there. I'll say in the first year, coming from the university and teaching students how to do the actual hands-on labor, my series of classes were very technical and high level, really detailed oriented. So I was going through a series of like video production classes, teaching them how to do this stuff. And although the classes, were getting filled, as far as the space that we had there at the time, I realized that, when people start businesses, they want to be able to do this, but they don't necessarily want to be the expert in how to do that. So we can show them and help them versus turning them into a video producer or turning them into something that they probably either don't have the time, the ability to do, then we can go from there. So the classes that I've kind of moved on now are more of a marketing, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So you can see we have a Canon T5Is. We have 2 of those. We do have a green screen, so if somebody comes in and wants to do a video, like for example, we've had like realtors come in and they want to have a background of Scottsdale, of a home that they're selling, we can easily crop that out for them and put in the background of their choice. We also did have a volunteer video editor that was in school. He's since graduated, and we're looking at getting another one. Our Brandon, our volunteer coordinator, is amazing. He always gets us different volunteers, and he can maneuver and tell us, oh, this person's interested, and help us. And we do have a lot of people that are interested in volunteering at the library, so I think that's awesome. We also have a teleprompter, so people that need to read their script, they can use that. We have lighting that's set up. We have the tripods for the cameras and the microphones so they can use it. And a few other software that people can have access to. The other question I get asked a lot is, can they be in the digital media lab like without us being in there? And they can technically, but let's say we have somebody that actually has their own equipment to shoot video. They would have to bring their equipment, and we would make sure, like, especially on the weekends, because I'm usually only here Monday through Thursday, one of the other library staff would open it up for them. They could set up their video equipment and use the space. But as far as using our equipment without us there, we don't allow that, just because we want to make sure that, that nothing's damaged or lost or anything like that. So we have to actually be there to supervise that. But we have had people that are photographers, videographers that just need to use the space, and they don't necessarily need us, and we've let them book that, and usually it's on the weekend. So mention a little bit about Adobe Creative Cloud that I used to teach a lot about. So if anyone has any questions about that, feel free to contact me. So this is just a sample of some of the digital media classes I've had. As you can see, one of the ways that we do market my digital media classes is we'll have a separate rack form that gets printed out by our graphic designer here. So it goes along in schedule with the printed calendar that we have for the library, but my rack card is just strictly digital media classes, and then on the back we'll have a digital media lab, the same thing that I just showed you that we should have on the door, how they can register or how they can book it, and then the equipment that we have. So we have the pictures on the back as well. The restrictions, I don't know if you noticed, but we do have, like I put in restrictions just because we envision, and it's worked pretty well from the beginning that we restricted to, like I said, once per month, making sure that we were there monitoring everything, and everything's worked pretty smoothly as far as that. So I'm going to go through a sampling of some of my classes, but before I did that, I don't know if Susan has any questions that you've seen particular for the Digital Media Lab, if anyone has that before we go into I'll take a look at some of the classes we teach in the digital media marketing.
I don't think there's anything in particularly that for your digital media program, but there are other questions that we can bring up at the end before we sign off. Okay?
Sounds good, yeah. Okay, so one of the things I've noticed is that we changed a little bit of our classes is we do marketing through, like I said, our rack cards. We have the meetup page that Allan spoke about where it's just exclusively Eureka, everything that's going on. And so my digital media classes are on there as well, and I'll show you again. I don't know if you noticed, but I show this during my class as well, and every slide deck that I use during my class, I upload a link to download it on our meetup page. So you can actually go back there yourself, go to our meetup.com/Eureka-Scottsdale. You go to the date of the class, and I'll put a note that says here's a link to download the presentation. The password would be Digital Media 2017 for this year. If you go back to 2016, it would be Digital Media 2016. So you would just download the presentation if you want to look at it. I do get a lot of people emailing me if they missed class for the presentation to know how that worked. We also use another form of marketing, which is nextdoor.com. And for me, what I've recognized is that's been one of the biggest impacts as far as class turnout. We've had some really closed, like sold out classes, even though they're free. It's like, we've had to have a waiting list where we've had, because the space we have only has about 30 chairs, so we usually have to get extra chairs, fill it in. We had a really popular class, which was our Facebook and Instagram class that had about over 100 registrants, so we definitely had to get more class chairs put in there. So I'll just give you an example of some of the classes that I teach. So always start off with branding your business. So business owners need to know, are they branding? What does that even mean to them? What does that entail for you as a business owner? So I use one of my favorite definitions. If you read that, it's an intangible perception of a person, thing, product, or service that people choose to buy into based on what they're told or experience. So a brand is a belief system. So if you can get your target audience to believe what you're telling them about you, they've recognized it, they're telling others, and they've seen it, then you've actually created a brand for your company. So this is just an example of one of the slide decks that we would use on our presentation. Another thing I've noticed is the title of my class really makes a difference on the turnout. So I've also helped some other presenters with their titles as well if they're not seeing a turnout. Allan and I've worked on it together too. So if I title a class a certain way that doesn't create interest, you might not get as much of a turnout. But as I went through, I noticed that a lot of people want to know about their marketing, but we got to start from the scratch and see. So this next class is, one of them is branding through video. And then I also have a DIY video and photography class that we teach. So showing them the basics. So we don't want to get too over technical, like they feel it's over their head, that they can't do this thing. We're here to support them. But if they at least know the terminology, the different steps, the different things that they can use that's in their hands, then they're going to feel a little bit more comfortable with it. So an example of that I would show them is, if you're going to use your smartphone, make sure that you shoot wide, not tall. So a lot of people will shoot tall, and if they're going to upload it on YouTube, for example, they're going to get these black bars on the side of their video. So that's a no-no. That's really jarring to the eyes. So we'll give them certain tips like that. And I always like to tell them why they should be shooting video, blogging, marketing. Obviously, they want to increase sales or get brand awareness, but giving them actual numbers that show the impact of what they do in their business helps to make a difference as well. So for example, if you have a video on your website, you increase the amount of time that a visitor would stay on your website by average of 2 minutes. So when we see that normally you have 15 seconds to impact somebody when they come onto your site and they're going to decide whether or not they're going to stay on your site or they're leaving, you can do certain things such as having a video on your website to create that increased visitation and having them stay longer, which also increases the search engine optimization that we talk about as well. So another class that I've presented is when websites work. So we go through those kind of steps when it comes through your each page of your site, whether it's your about page, your services, and depending on what type of business they have, we can work with them to show them, okay, this is what you need on the front page. If you're selling, if you're an e-commerce site, you should really have right when they go to the front page, links to buy now, click here, learn more about the products. It used to be where it was all about flash and imagery, but that can distract your potential target audience. So we talk about that. Another important thing is knowing that who you're targeting, who you're speaking to. So I'll talk about how your website is actually about the person who clicks it to see it, not about yourself. And if I look at, in our one-on-ones, sometimes we'll go through some websites and it'll be a lot of the about page, for example, is their experience, their expertise, what their background, which is great, but you really want to start off with talking to that one individual person and what you can do. So those type of things really help them to kind of see, oh, I need to do some changes to my website, make some adjustments, and then each month I get a lot of patrons come back and visit me, and we can see the improvement, and we can help them and then also teach them how to update their website as well. I always recommend them that make sure that their website is mobile friendly. So we take them to some sources. I'll give them some links. One of them is a HubSpot device lab where you can enter your website and see if it's responsive and see how it looks on every single device, whether it's a smartphone or iPad or your laptop. You want to make sure that it's mobile friendly, it's visible, and everybody can see it appropriately. So as I mentioned earlier, with the going on for the 3 years of classes, I noticed that a lot of people wanted to learn a lot about social media marketing, which is another area that I expertise in. So combining digital media and digital marketing classes was essential in building our audience for these classes, as well as really helping them take their business to the next level. And so the Instagram, the Facebook class, like I mentioned, had the most RSVPs that we had so far. And so that's one of the classes I'd likely repeat and say, okay, we can break it down, we can take it more so people can understand. And then a lot of times after those classes, I'll get one-on-ones signed up, and they can do that. So because we're going to talk generally about your business, and then you can meet with me one-on-one where I can consult on your business and actually help you individually. So that's one of the features that our patrons really enjoy. I do about 30 one-on-ones each month. Last month I did 33, so it's usually around 30 that I'll do working 25 hours a week. And then I also, we do like I said, on Mondays we do the video and the photography. So another class that I do is a digital designing your own marketing materials. So in the beginning, like I said, I went through the high-level Photoshop, Illustrator, because that was my expertise and passion, but that's not necessarily what everybody wants to get their hands in. So our next class that we did the following year was more designing your marketing materials on a budget and a way that you can do it a lot more easier. And if you've heard of Canva, for example, you don't have to have any graphic design skills to be able to use Canva. It's a lot of templates. You pick them. They've got the stylized fonts there for you already, and you can create presentation materials, business cards, flyers, all sorts of things. So kind of pushing people to be able to learn how to do those things easier on their own. This is just another sample as well. We have people that maybe want to look at, printing their materials or the digitals, and we have to understand that color is going to change if you're looking at it on a printed versus digital. So kind of giving them an idea of what to use and making it easier for them so they can remember, okay, if I'm online, use RGB coloring. If I'm printing something, you want to use CMYK. So, and then also giving people access to links. I share a lot of different links on my slide deck, so that's why I make it available after class for them. So here's one where you can get free stock photos, for example, where it's free to use, and knowing what you can use, the rights you have to use photos, music, we've also covered that as well. And then I know there are some additional links for stock photos. There's PicMonkey, Pixabay that I use a lot for a lot of my presentations. And then if you have an Adobe account, you get the first 10 images free, and then there's some that you're going to pay for that. And then obviously if you're going to create any type of content that has to do with a video or music, we talk about what rights you have for audio content. So there's the different levels that business owners need to understand, that obviously you can't just take a copywritten song and put on your video, and even the ones that say you can use for free, some of it is only for personal use. So we help them navigate through what access you have to use audio content, even fonts, for example, and what each thing means. What's in the public domain? The creator, is it allowing you to use it for personal, use it for business use, and provide those links for them as well. Another class that we have is how to monetize your video or website. And so talking through Google AdSense, one of the first things I mention to our local business owners is if they're not on Google My Business, if their target audience is local and they don't actually represent themselves on Google My Business, they're doing their business a disservice. So I always give them a homework assignment. Make sure you register your business on Google My Business, get that postcard so you can confirm it, and actually show up on the Google map, which is also going to increase your search engine optimization. And if you're looking for keywords to use on your website and so forth, we give them links for that, such as Google Fetch, Google Trends, Google Correlate. There's so much content out there. There's even a website called Answer the Public that has basically put together all of the different Google searches. And you can put in a question or a keyword, and it'll show you data of who's asking what, how they're asking it, kind of considered like long tail questions in any category, any topic, and you can see real time what people are actually asking out there. And if you can convert that to actually creating a blog about it, then you're going to increase your visibility online. So that's another class that we talk about, is blogging for business. It's really, really important that you establish yourself as an expert, and doing that by blogging is really important. So we go through that, how to create topics, how to think of topics, how often you should blog, which the more you do, the better, and the reasons why you should blog. So research has shown that companies that blog have 55% more website visitors. So it's really important to get out there, be out there consistent. I always tell them, don't be afraid that people are going to take your ideas and steal them, or if you're an expert in a certain service or product, what you're actually showing is that you actually know this stuff and you're helping them. You have to give more than you ask to receive. You're going to have a visitor visit your website anywhere from 7 to 13 times before they interact with you. So you have to actually continually show yourself that you are an expert, you're established, you're somebody that they would want to connect with. And you can absolutely do that online. So that's all the things that we try to help them with and see how that's going to work. And then I always end with, always include a call to action, whether it's your blog, your website page, a video. What is it that you're trying to get your potential target audience to do? You don't just give the information and tell them nothing. Join us, visit our website, join this event, read more, learn more. What are you trying to get out of them? So always including a call to action is there. And so that's the end of presentation, Susan. I think there might have been a few questions coming in. Did you see those, Susan?
Awesome. Yes. Thank you so much. That was such a great rundown of all of your programming. And as I mentioned to everyone before, I've been there and I've seen you in action. So I was gesturing wildly in the room saying how awesome this site is and all the things you do. But we've got a lot of questions from folks and some more specifics. I think the first is about the evaluation needs of the audience, because as you know, the business needs continue to evolve. How do you ensure that you keep your fingers on the pulse of your community and evaluate the needs of your audience?
Well, a lot of that comes to the presenter. When we're deciding on what programs or what presenters to sign up, we try to make sure that it's addressing interests and questions that we get on a day-to-day basis in the Eureka Loft, trends in business or entrepreneurship that we become aware of. Again, I think it's helpful to have staff that works with the general public working in Eureka too, because we can anticipate what types of questions or what types of resources people are really looking for. We use a lot of referral too for people, things like SCORE mentoring, so for keeping people up to date or getting expertise that maybe where the library staff doesn't have that business experience, we're able to bring that in and provide it. We are working with economic development. They of course keep us abreast of what's going on in the community, what kinds of questions and what the needs are for entrepreneurs and small business people. So we get feedback from every program. We do again take the surveys at the end of each program that we provide, and again, we feel like based on those responses that we're meeting needs. We try to kind of evaluate, or the questions on the survey are designed to evaluate sort of a prior knowledge versus after program knowledge, so people feel like they've actually learned something, picked up some good new information. So it's sort of a throughout the process to get that.
Great. Yeah, and the pre and post, that's awesome to show that people do change their behaviors or learn some skills. Thank you. A couple of questions in terms of the actual, what the library staff does to support this program. Are there, and also more importantly, there have been folks that have been chatting in, is this all free for the community? Is there any charge for anyone to use any of this technology or resources or classes?
It's all free, no charge at all, and that's kind of a fun thing to explain that to people, especially when talking about the Digital Media Lab. There's no charge.
Great. And so there's a couple more questions. The first is there's a library staff that's saying working in a library, staff generally don't give suggestions or recommendations to the public, and instead they're encouraged to provide a variety of options. In doing this entrepreneurship kind of training, how do you get around this to provide assistance to the public for these specific business questions?
The staff has sort of a broad but shallow understanding for the most part of business needs and questions, so we don't often get into very deep to things like maybe legal questions or tax questions, that type of thing, and staff is well trained enough to know when to draw the line for those things. What we have is, again, a lot of referral sources. Our presenters are often there as experts in those areas, so they're able to speak to those types of questions. Being able to refer people to economic development, or again, even just our online resources such as the Small Business Administration, which has a lot of that type of question and answer material available. So we know where to send people with those types of questions when we don't feel like it's something that we can or should be answering.
Yeah, and I would just add that for some of the digital media marketing techniques, there's some established know-how that works, so we'll suggest on those. But we always encourage and are supportive of a business idea, somebody that wants to do it in a particular way, but also helping them, like if they want to have a website, how should it look, how should it lay out. So for me, in my expertise, I can help them say, okay, we know that, for example, if you put your logo on the upper left-hand side of your website, that's where people look towards. So it's those type of technical digital media marketing classes that we already know are standard answers that we're going to help them with. And then if they want another type of additional support or question, like Allan said, we can lead them to the right area as well.
Thank you. A couple of other questions, and this is a big one. If someone was looking to emulate this in another local library and they haven't started this at all, how would you recommend, what first step would you recommend that they take?
Well, I'd like to speak to having somebody like Nife available. She's a really incredible resource to have, and we feel lucky to have her. So the program, the equipment, and so on would really be not of much use to us if we didn't have Nife to put some life into it and get people to connect with those technologies and things. So that's, if you kind of have a feel in your community for somebody who has that expertise and who might be able to volunteer, or if you have, again, a lot of what has gone on and what the setup and things for the Digital Media Lab and for having Nife is grant-based. So grant funding has a lot to do with that as far as getting it started and keeping it running. It also helps to have partnerships. The ASU partnership at the beginning for the Eureka Loft as a whole was instrumental. Looking around for those types of opportunities, again, whatever is in your community, and having a good sense of what the library is prepared to provide. In our case, having a good space to accommodate that was key. But really, looking around and seeing what resources you might have that will help you set up something and have it be sustainable.
Thank you. I'm going to try to squeeze in one more question before we have to wrap up, and I'm going to try to push two together. The first is average attendance and average time for a course, and what type of training do you give the volunteers in your library on this?
The average attendance is somewhere around between 15 and 20, I would say. Some we have more, some we have less. I think overall that's about the average for what we see. We tend to schedule classes or programs for 2 hours. Between 1.5 and 2 hours is pretty much the standard for those sessions. And we tend to have our best success scheduling programs in the evening when people are available. So in our case, between 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock is kind of the usual. For the volunteers, they are brought on board through our volunteer coordinators who are specifically employed to coordinate and do the training and the onboarding, I guess you call it, for volunteers. As the Eureka Loft coordinator, it's up to me to continue the communication with the volunteers in terms of what's new, whatever new programs are coming up, or what programs are about to take place from week to week. So those are, it's between myself and the volunteer coordinator, that's pretty much how volunteers are trained and kept up to date.
Great, thank you. And we are actually out of time. There were a few more questions that I can forward to Allan and Nife so that we can follow up with those folks afterwards. And there are also folks that are really interested in getting help on marketing, branding, and websites. So I think there's some potential students for your course, Nife.
Awesome.
Very quickly, I just want to remind everyone that today, this webinar is designed for you. So I want to ask what you learned today. Take a minute to chat in the chat box one thing you learned or you're going to share with someone or implement. You can also check out our TechSoup courses, where we've got plenty of free online on-demand courses, and including one about branding. It's designed for non-designers 101. And I will try to chat that out. And some upcoming webinars and events. On Thursday we have a really interesting presentation from MasterCard about how to navigate the charitable giving landscape. They've looked at data and can tell nonprofits how people donate. And it's a really insightful presentation. Hopefully you can join us. We also have Technology for Social Change next week, and then we've got a security-based webinar on the 27th about semantics. So we hope you join us for one or all of those. A huge, ginormous thank you to Nife and Allan. Like I said, I've been to the Eureka Loft and I can only rave about it. I think it's amazing, and every public library should have one and should be staffed by folks like them or folks like you on the call. So I want to thank them for their time and their expertise and answering all the questions and putting the presentation together. I want to do a shout out to Becky and Alicia that were on the back end doing some chats, and of course to our ReadyTalk sponsor that provides this resource for us to deliver this content. So again, we want to thank you for your time, and if you could, as you log off, complete the survey, because that tells us as administrators what we're doing right and what we need to get better. And the best thing you can do is tell us what you liked about this presentation and how we can serve your libraries or public libraries in general better. So Nife, Allan, once again, thank you. Thank you for your time. I know you have to get back on the desk, so thanks. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your week and enjoy. Bye-bye.